veces, porque no tenemos la capacidad de pararnos sobre nuestros propios pies. Hoy radicamos un proyecto bipartita que nos va a permitir no solamente accesar y tener poder donde se toman las decisiones aquí en el Congreso, sino también alcanzar esa igualdad a la que tenemos derecho como ciudadanos americanos. Más de 236.000 puertorriqueños han luchado en las Fuerzas Armadas, con mucho orgullo y valentía representando a nuestra nación, y es momento de que esas voces se escuchen y podamos tener el derecho de votar por nuestro comandante en jefe. Le agradezco a mis colegas en la Cámara y en el Senado que escuchen este llamado, este mandato directo, no delegado, directo del pueblo de Puerto Rico en las urnas, que votó y sacó más votos que cualquier candidato político, que sacó más votos que cualquier político para escoger la estadidad. Yo creo que es el momento de que nuestra gente no se siga mudando, sino que tengamos esas herramientas para poder echar hacia adelante. Y agradezco que el gobernador de Puerto Rico esté aquí haciendo ese reclamo también junto con los miembros del Congreso. Quiero, si el compañero Darren Soto nos permite, poder dejar que los compañeros congresistas también se puedan expresar brevemente para que también el gobernador hable. Senator Henry, can you just express yourself now?
Thank you, Resident Commissioner, and all of my congressional colleagues here. You know, every time I think I've been here a little while, Don Young reminds me that I just got here. But for 12 years, I have served with Congressman Young and many of my colleagues in the House side and then in the Senate side on the committees that deal with the issue of territorial status. And I can tell you that the governor started a conversation with me about 5 minutes after we met as new members in the fall of 2008. And it forced me to really learn my own history, to learn New Mexico's history, becoming a territory in 1848, becoming a state in 1912. And one of the things that shocked me was how similar the struggle really is, that the arguments haven't really changed. And I think, you know, I'm very proud to announce my intention to introduce this legislation on the Senate side, because we should not be comfortable with millions of American citizens in a place where people have been born as Americans for over 100 years, that they would not have the same representation that all of us enjoy. The fact that we have millions of Puerto Rican Americans, that we have tens of thousands, if not over 100,000 American veterans who have served this country in places like Iraq and Afghanistan and across the globe. You know, we like to say Americans were all created equal, but some of us are more equal than others. And it's time to make sure that all of those Americans in Puerto Rico have the same representation, the same ability to fight what is better, what is best in Washington, D.C., as all of us in other states enjoy. And I think this is how we form a more perfect union. This is an idea whose time has come, and I'm proud to stand with my colleagues on this issue and with the government.
Thank you, Senator Harris. Next we'll have the Dean of the House, John Young of Alaska.
Oh boy. Thank you, Darren. My pleasure. And I'm just sitting there thinking about it. 26 years ago, we passed the Young bill out of the House. 26 years ago, we've been waiting, and finally we got one commissioner. Where are you, Commissioner?
Here.
Jennifer, Darren, Congressman. And it's a bipartisan need to take this job and get it done. Let's make Puerto Rico a state. I was thinking when Jennifer was speaking, you're going to get 4 House members. I'd say, why? You're better than 4. I can say that right now. And I'm the only member of Congress from Alaska, so it's sort of like being the only one. But this will work. I heard the same arguments when we became a state against Puerto Rico, the same arguments against Alaska. It will work. We need to get it done. It's good for Puerto Rico. It's good for America. Good for this great world of ours. Say we all are equal. So I congratulate both of you for being here, and the senator and the governor. I really am excited about today. This is a great time. I hate talking to this damn mask right there, right now. God bless you all. Take care.
I want to say thank you to the Dean of the House. I mean, he's been fighting for statehood since day one, and I want to say thank you to him. I know Congresswoman Val Damians need to leave, and so I'm gonna let her.
Well, let me say good morning to all of you, and it is my honor to be here to stand with my colleagues. You know, many people believe that we don't do much in a bipartisan way, but look at us this morning. We might not agree on a lot, but we agree on statehood for Puerto Rico. We are here in front of one of the greatest, most iconic buildings of what a democracy is supposed to be. We are, thank you, Senator, a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. We talk a lot about freedom and equality, but people who do not have the opportunity to make their own decisions are not free. Are we who we say we are as a nation? We're not talking about people who are not a part of the United States of America. We are talking about U.S. citizens. And I feel better, Commissioner, than I ever have, that this has been a heavy lift. But I do believe that the time is right and the time is now. And I'm absolutely honored to join my colleagues and stand with them and my brothers and sisters on the island of Puerto Rico to send a strong message that no, we're not red states or blue states, but we are the United States and their voices matter. And we're going to do everything in our power to pass statehood for our brothers and sisters in Puerto Rico. So thank you all, and God bless you.
Now with us, my friend and new colleague in the House from Miami. She was living in Puerto Rico for many, many years, Maria Elvira Salazar.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Wonderful, and thank you, Governor, for being here, and my colleagues. For me, it's an honor, and I thank you very much for having invited me to such a dear topic, which is Puerto Rico. I was raised in Puerto Rico when my parents fled Cuba because of the communist Castro revolution, and the Puerto Ricans opened their arms and their hearts to those Cuban exiles that were arriving in the island. And that's why I'm here today supporting you, and you've done a commendable job in expressing to the Congress and to the American public why Puerto Ricans cannot be a second-class citizen anymore, and they need to be part of the union. So, as my Congress colleague, Congresswoman Felton, was saying, this is a bipartisan effort. This is something that Republicans and Democrats agree on, and that we need to get it done. And I thank you once again for your leadership. I thank you once again because now I think the time is the time, because of the political environment, is the time to include our Puerto Rican brothers and sisters into the union. And I thank you once again. Thank you, Governor, for being here. I'm going to say it in español. Mi nombre es María Elvira Salazar, yo represento la ciudad de Miami, distrito número 27, en el estado de la Florida, donde tenemos más de 27,000 hermanos puertorriqueños. Yo me crié y viví en Puerto Rico por muchos años cuando mis padres tuvieron que salir huyendo del régimen castrista. Por eso los llevo en el corazón a los puertorriqueños y por eso estoy aquí dándole apoyo desde bipartita, tanto republicanos como demócratas unidos en una sola causa, que es la causa puertorriqueña. Es tiempo que los 3 millones de puertorriqueños que viven en la isla sean ciudadanos de primera clase, y que se unan, y que todos nos unamos en este esfuerzo de hacer que el Congreso Federal Norteamericano permita a la isla de Puerto Rico como el Estado número 51. Le damos las gracias a Jennifer González, que ha hecho una labor encomiable, extraordinaria, en luchar porque esta iniciativa se lleve a cabo y se haga realidad. Gracias, y que Dios nos bendiga y que bendiga a la gran isla de Puerto Rico.
Yeah, I want to have now a friend that since we arrived together in Congress, I mean, she's been a powerful voice in Puerto Rico. And I need to say this because There's many issues regarding the island, Medicaid, Medicare, several federal programs. And Stephanie Murphy has been all the way with Puerto Rico, not just one federal program. She's been a powerful voice for Puerto Rico, and I'm completely grateful for her. Thank you. With you guys, Stephanie Murphy.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Congresswoman Stephanie Murphy. You know, there are over 100,000 people in my Orlando district who were born in Puerto Rico or of Puerto Rican roots. And the state of Florida itself now has over 1.1 million Puerto Ricans, more than any other state. And the cause we're here to discuss today, equality for the people of Puerto Rico, matters to the people of Florida, and it matters to me personally. And I want to acknowledge a few friends and colleagues, beginning with Congresswoman Jennifer Gonzalez-Colon. She represents over 3.2 million American citizens, more than any other member of the House. And she does it with just skill and tenacity, and it's just such an honor to serve with you. And I also want to thank Congressman Darren Soto and Senator Martin Heinrich and my colleagues, Representative Young and Salazar, for all being here today with us. They have been such strong supporters of the people of Puerto Rico. And then finally, I want to welcome Governor Pierluisi. I know the weather is a little bit colder than it is on the island, but you know, I really appreciate that you made the trip up here from Puerto Rico on this important day. And I'm really proud to introduce this bipartisan bill to begin Puerto Rico's transition from a U.S. territory to a U.S. state. I hear a lot of talk in Congress about the need to support self-determination in Puerto Rico. And I hear this phrase over and over again. Let me tell you what self-determination means to me. It's a very simple concept. It means listening to the people of Puerto Rico. It means respecting the people of Puerto Rico. And it means that when the people of Puerto Rico go to the ballot box and cast a vote on their political destiny, we in the federal government need to honor the choice that they made. And that's what it means to actually support self-determination. And in November, the people of Puerto Rico were asked whether they wanted to become an island, or wanted the island to become a state or not. And the vote was free, and it was fair, and a clear majority of voters said yes. And some voters said no, and I recognize and respect that. But again, a clear majority said yes. And now the ball is in Congress's court. And that's why we're introducing a bill that would admit Puerto Rico into the Union after a transition period and subject to the ratification vote on the island. This is the same process that was followed by Alaska and Hawaii. And personally, I look forward to the day when the men and women living in Puerto Rico have the exact same rights and responsibilities as their fellow American citizens living in Florida or any other state. And I'm looking forward to the day when they can vote for their president and commander-in-chief, 2 U.S. senators, and 4 voting members of the U.S. House. I'm looking forward to the day when they're treated equally under all federal programs. Not worse, not better, equal. I used to work at the Pentagon, and I now sit on the Armed Services Committee. I think it's absolutely wrong that soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines from Puerto Rico can fight and die for this country, but they can't vote for the leaders who make their national laws, and they are treated unequally under those laws. That's not acceptable to me. So I promise you, in their quest for equality, the people of Puerto Rico will always have me as their ally and their champion. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you allow me, there's a person here that was a member of Congress for 8 years. And he was elected governor of Puerto Rico during last November. He understands the issue about statehood and self-determination. He fought for that while he was a member of Congress in the Natural Resources Committee. Actually, he was the one who worked with Don Young to make that bill pass in the House. And now he's fighting to get this bill as well passed and respect the will of the people of Puerto Rico to fight for statehood. With you, the governor of Puerto Rico, Pedro Pierluisi.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Good morning to all. Today we commemorate the 104th anniversary of the granting of American citizenship to the people of Puerto Rico. More than a century later, the American citizens residing in Puerto Rico are still fighting for equality. Equality that should be guaranteed by the founding principles of American democracy. We've been proud American citizens for over 100 years. Our soldiers have fought honorably in America's wars, and our people have contributed to this nation in multiple ways. Yet, we cannot vote for our commander-in-chief and lack equal representation in the U.S. House of Representatives and the Senate. This past November 3rd, in a straightforward process, a clear majority of Puerto Ricans declared, in no uncertain terms, that they want equality and no longer consent to being second-class citizens. It is time for Congress to act on the moral and political imperative conveyed by our clear message. This bipartisan bill, filed by our resident Commissioner Jennifer Gonzalez and our friend Congressman Darren Soto, is the answer our people deserve. It sets forth the process for Puerto Rico to become a state of the union. The next step is for the American citizens of Puerto Rico to express themselves in a congressionally sanctioned referendum, offering statehood to our island. Once the people of Puerto Rico reaffirm their desire for equal rights, the admission will take place. We will elect our congressional delegation, and we will be ready to vote for president and vice president. I respect those who advocate for other status options, but the Puerto Rican people made a clear democratic choice, expressing that statehood is their preferred path forward. Today, there can be no doubt about where the American citizens of Puerto Rico stand. First, in 2012, a clear majority, over 54% of the voters, rejected Puerto Rico's current territorial status. And now, again, a clear majority, almost 53%, chose statehood for Puerto Rico. It is Congress's responsibility to respond to that vote and to offer statehood. We have the courage to hold an up or down vote on statehood, and the people of Puerto Rico chose statehood. Now we reassert that courage by asking Congress to offer statehood to the American citizens of Puerto Rico. The fight for equality is a matter of civil rights. Proposals for a new process with other options, because some didn't like the result, show a lack of respect to the people's vote. I hear some say that we need consensus. Those of us who want equality can never consent to discrimination and unequal treatment. There can never be consensus for second-class citizenship. The majority rules in our democratic system, and the majority of the American citizens residing in Puerto Rico want equality. I thank Congresswoman Jennifer Gonzalez, Congressman Darren Soto, Congresswoman Stephanie Murphy, Maria Elvira Salazar, member of Congress, and actually I'm so glad that you joined this quest as a former resident of Puerto Rico. I thank the Lion of Congress, the Dean of Congress, Congressman Don Young, for being here. I thank as well my friend Senator Martin Heinrich. I know he'll fight this quest again in the Senate. And I urge Congress to approve the bill and support the will of the American citizens of Puerto Rico. We deserve a seat at the table. We have earned it, and we will not stop until we get it. Now I'll turn just very briefly to Spanish. Hoy celebramos el 104 aniversario de la ciudadanía americana que tenemos todos los puertorriqueños que residimos en la isla del Encanto. Llevamos más de 100 años con esta ciudadanía. Cuando residimos en la isla la tenemos a medio. Es una ciudadanía de segunda categoría cuando optamos por residir en la isla. Eso no hace sentido. Hay que acabar con este discrimen geográfico que hay con los ciudadanos americanos que residen en Puerto Rico. Nosotros ya llevamos años preguntándole al pueblo cuál es su deseo, qué es lo que quiere para el futuro de Puerto Rico. Pero en esta última ocasión hicimos la pregunta que no se había hecho. Tuvimos la valentía de preguntarle al pueblo de Puerto Rico que dijera si quiere la estabilidad, sí o no. Por definición no puede haber una consulta más inclusiva, más justa que esa, porque todo el que quiere la igualdad que representa la estabilidad pudo decir que sí, y todo el que tenía cualquier objeción a esa opción de estatus tuvo la oportunidad de decir que no. Y todos los votantes que acudieron a las elecciones generales, prácticamente todos, se expresaron. Y eso fue sin que el Congreso nos hiciera ningún tipo de compromiso ni ofrecimiento. Eso fue después que la administración del presidente Trump objetó la consulta. Con todo y eso, casi 53% de nuestros votantes dijeron que sí. Ahora le corresponde al Congreso contestar la misma pregunta. ¿Quiere el Congreso que Puerto Rico sea un estado? ¿Sí o no? Que digan que sí, los que creen en los puertorriqueños. Que digan que sí, los que le quieren dar la oportunidad a Puerto Rico, igual que se la dieron a Alaska, a Hawái, a Nuevo México y a Florida. Estados que cuando aspiraron a la igualdad que representa la estabilidad, tenían economías que no estaban tan desarrolladas como las economías de los estados, pero querían aportarle a la nación, querían mejorar. Eso es lo que queremos en Puerto Rico, una mejor calidad de vida, aportarle a esta nación, diversificar aún más esta nación, enriquecer aún más esta nación. Y por eso estamos aquí hoy. Yo la verdad que le doy las gracias a nuestra gran comisionada residente, a Darren Soto, a todos los congresistas que dijeron presente en esta actividad. Cuenten conmigo como gobernador de Puerto Rico. Y tengo que decir algo que me sale del alma. Es fácil oponerse a la estabilidad para Puerto Rico cuando uno disfruta la estabilidad en los estados de Estados Unidos. Difícil es vivir las consecuencias del estatus territorial que nosotros nos sufrimos todos los días en nuestra isla. Vamos a lograr que Puerto Rico se convierta en un estado con el favor de Dios y el apoyo de este Congreso. Que Dios les bendiga.
Now we'll take a few questions in English for español.
Do we have any questions?
So now we're talking about the spending practice right now, going up to the Senate, and Republicans have talked about bailouts going to the blue states. Now, how is it that people will not be looking at Puerto Rico perhaps becoming a state as a roundabout way to prevent Puerto Rico getting a bailout? What are your thoughts on that?
First of all, right now, Puerto Rico is a responsibility of Congress. All territories are a direct responsibility of Congress, directed by the Constitution. So what that means is if we do not become a state, we will never be in equal footing and we will not have a direct responsibility.
Do you advocate for a bailout for Puerto Rico if it becomes a state?
No, I mean, we are never asking for a bailout. We will be in equal footing contributing to the nation. But right now, we don't have access to a lot of programs that would allow the people not just to grow, to get out of poverty. Like many states, those programs allow people to get out of poverty, to grow in their communities. And of course, one of the items in this bill, if you're talking about the debt, is that when Puerto Rico becomes a state, we are going to remain with our debt, and we need to carry on a lot of our own issues. So this is not a big difference with other bills of other people that are asking for erasing the debt. This is not about that.
And if I may,
Yeah.
this bill in no way obligates the United States for the debt that Puerto Rico has suffered. In no way. It just merely admits Puerto Rico as a state after ratification. Secondly, there's a long history of policies here in the federal government that have put Puerto Rico behind. And so this idea that it has anything to do with a bailout is totally false.
And actually, the bill specifically established that the state will carry their debt. So this is the only bill regarding definition that specifically says that whatever the debt is, that the territory will carry with that responsibility. Actually, they are, and here we have it in section 9 of the bill. Will have that responsibility. So it's in the bill.
Okay, next question.
Now that you're talking about the bailout, what will happen in the bankruptcy process? if Puerto Rico intervenes in a year, that will interrupt the
No,
process.
the bill allows all processes to remain. I mean, it's Section 9 of the bill said that all processes that are running under federal law will continue as they are. And as well, all elected officials that are in their posts are going to continue until the next election. So it's like all regular processes are running, it will continue. I mean, this bill will not stop any process that is, you're talking about bankruptcy, but it's like you're running a criminal case under the court that's not going to be stopped because you are having a state admission, or you're having a civil case in the court. It's not going to be stopped because you're having an admission of the state. That never happened in any other state.
So what would happen with
Puerto Rico would have additional rights because it would be a state in bankruptcy and would have sovereign immunity, so it would provide additional rights to Puerto Rico for debts that it may have.
So what would happen with the board if the bankruptcy process continues and you have a board, oversight board over the state?
Those are things that should be discussed on the committees that are going to have jurisdiction, evaluating and reviewing this bill, either in the House and in the Senate. Those are kind of questions, like when Alaska and Hawaii actually got their statehood, they were concerned about the federal lands of those two territories, and actually the ratification process included some of those provisions. So these could be included in more detail when the committee studies those issues.
Sure, I do not expect the PROMESA board to be there beyond Puerto Rico being admitted as a state, or just to be clear on the
Congressman, how many votes are and how many Democrats versus Republicans?
I think we're at 47, 50. We're at 50 co-sponsors right now.
How many Republicans?
Culturally speaking, though, at this point, Puerto Rico still, as far as the idea of language is concerned, still has a good portion of the island that still doesn't speak English. How exactly are you going to square that?
First of all, there are several states that have several languages.
But not like Puerto Rico.
Like Alaska and like New Mexico and other states. State issues for the state of Puerto Rico. Federal matters would have to be are already in English and would continue.
Actually, and that shouldn't be an issue. English has become the dominant language in the world. It's a matter of personal advancement to learn English, and of course, to make sure that more of our population becomes fully bilingual. But I should say the following. Actually, our cultural background, our heritage, is an asset to the nation. Puerto Rico will truly be the first Hispanic state of the Union, and that's going to be for the benefit of the Union. And for those who do not like to see America diversifying, we respect that. But it's a process that is happening. It's going to continue happening, and it's one of the main reasons why Puerto Rico should be joining the Union.
You go to a place like Acapulco, and you're not going to have a lot of English speakers in those areas.
Where?
Excuse me,
Where?
another
I'm sorry.
question.
In Puerto Rico, ever more so. So people are learning English, and they communicate both in Spanish and English, and that process is not going to stop.
And
that's going to happen regardless of a change of status. So it shouldn't be an issue in this process.
And I can tell you, whether it's Orlando or Kissimmee, Florida, there's plenty of people who speak English or Spanish. This is throughout the nation. We're a bilingual nation and even a trilingual nation. So the idea of language is a local and state matter for Puerto Rico. For the federal government, all those proceedings have to continue in English. We'll take our next question.
Yeah, Matt.
Question mainly for Congressman Soto here. We've seen the push for DC statehood. What is the legislative path for this? Is there a 2x2 effort, or would you hope for this to be a standalone bill? What's the path forward for Puerto Rico?
So while we anticipate both bills would be standalone bills, I personally would love to see both of them admitted 2x2 like we saw Hawaii and Alaska. And I do believe there's a growing coalition to do that in both the House and the Senate.
Thank you.
Why you vote if you vote in Puerto Rico and not in DC? What is the difference that you see?
So DC's already had, I think, over 50 votes we're going with the Alaska-Hawaii model, which was a decision by the resident commissioner and the governor to make sure we're complying with traditions. And so there'll be a proclamation should this bill pass, which I believe we have a great chance of, and then that will guarantee Puerto Rico, when they vote in the ratification vote, the next step will be admission and election for 2 U.S. senators and 4 members of Congress.
But the previous bill, you didn't include the new referendum.
That's,
The 2019 bill, I think.
that's correct. This bill is the consensus of the resident commissioner and the governor because this affects the island. I'm sponsoring it because I'm a big supporter of it and because the Democrats are in the majority. This bill and the language is the language selected by those who represent the government, which is the way it has to be.
And I want to say thank you, Mr. Soto. He respects that. The process for Puerto Rico is completely different from the process for DC. Puerto Rico is a territory of the United States, and it's under the watch of the U.S. Constitution. It's a completely different process. So one of the issues is Alaska and Hawaii. I mean, there have been 37 territories of the United States that were admitted to the Union, and we can revise all of them. Some of them took 5 years, some of them took 20 years to get admitted to the Union. Some of them took 2, 3, 4 years. Some of them took 1 plebiscite. Some of them took more. Even some plebiscite, the majority of the people rejected state, and even though Congress admitted them as a state. So in this case, we're following is the last cases and examples of territories being admitted as a state, which was Alaska and Hawaii. So we are following exactly the same steps, same questions, the same procedures that Alaska and Hawaii did. Why? Because we don't want to invent a new process. That was the last 2 models, and they point to where we
One little thing, which is very important. We don't want to for Congress to even give the impression that it is imposing its will on the people of Puerto Rico. That's why this bill requests the people of Puerto Rico to ratify the statehood, to express reaffirm once more that they do want statehood, but they would be doing it after Congress says that if the majority answers yes, that then this will happen. That's why I anticipate a very strong vote for statehood once this bill is approved by the House and the Senate.
Thank you, Governor. This concludes the press conference, but members will be available